What is up, everyone? Welcome to the 20 Podcast, brought to you by Beatsource. I'm your host, DJ Spider. That is right. Welcome to the show. You guys, make sure you check out Beatsource.com and use our code THE20 for an extra month on the free 30-day trial. With Beatsource link, that is, our exclusive thing that we've got built into our service. You can DJ from the cloud using our expertly curated playlists and DJ edits that no one else has. We are made for DJs by DJs, and this is the truth. I am not just saying this. I personally use Beatsource in conjunction with my DJ library at gigs. I could expand more on it if you want. Just hit me up. Speaking of amazing sites and ways to hit me up, my website, DJspider.com, DJayspider.com. That's right, I got my upcoming gigs. I got all kinds of things on there. I've been posting a lot of my live DJ sets. I've been doing so many different kinds of gigs that my sets have been all over the place. So I've been putting them up on my Mixcloud and SoundCloud. Go check out my Instagram. I'm always posting links on there at DJspider, and write me a message. Let me know how you're liking the show, some requests, whatever you want. Not song requests for like guests on the show. Thank you guys for listening, and make sure you come out to my gigs if you peep that and you're in the area. I'm in Vegas once a month. I'm in LA every week. I'm traveling the country doing nightclubs, private events, stuff like that. Thank you guys for all the messages about the show, and thank you for always supporting. Make sure you rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube and all that. We are available anywhere you get podcasts, video, audio, whatever you want, baby. And thank you guys, the Beatsourcers, for tuning in. I got to tell you about our show today. I've been trying to get this guy on the show for a while. He is an amazing dude. I'm such a fan of the music that he produces, and I'm just a fan of him in general, and I think you will be too after today's show. He's somebody whose DJ and music career has taken them to incredible places, things that you would have never dreamt of, I think. He's really paved his own lane as a DJ, a solo artist, and his amazing group, The Knocks, which he is one half of. They were just nominated for 2 Grammys, which we discuss on the episode. Super interesting. They've toured the world themselves. At one point, they toured the world with Justin Bieber. He's got some incredible stories about that on here. Just hearing about his evolution and how being a scratch DJ starting out influenced him. And that was super interesting and super inspirational because it just shows how you can get into something and take you places that you never could have dreamed of, or things that you really want to manifest yourself. And not to mention all that, he is a funny, smart, humble, and all-around cool person who has done some incredible things in the music world. And he has a ton more things coming on the way. So please welcome to the show, DJ B-Roc of Holiday 87 and The Knocks. We're here, the 20 Podcast, and please welcome to the show, DJ B-Roc from The Knocks and Holiday 87.
Hello.
Make some noise.
What's up? I love that.
What's up? Look at that. The crowd's going crazy.
Bloody.
Snoop just popped in.
Yes, sir.
Oh my God, everybo's here.
That's gonna fuck with me. I'm gonna keep looking around me like.
Yo, I see Pharrell is right behind you. He's opening your fridge right now. So.
What up,
yes.
Spider?
What up? Finally making this happen. We were just reminiscing about how we hung out the night before the pandemic actually fully started and never saw each other again.
Before times.
The
that was a
before
weird
times.
vibe at a hang. You're all like hanging out trying to drink beers and like be cool, but you're all like, is the world gonna end?
Yes.
Weird energy.
That was like that whole weekend. Like I DJ'd and we were like, trying to like, do we shake hands? What do we do? And then we all hung out at the after party at your place, and we're like you said, we're like, we should hang out, man. Let's go get lunch. Let's do stuff. And then it's like 4 years later, like we're on a virtual podcast.
Here we are. Yeah.
One day though, I know you've been in LA a few times, and we've tried to, I've tried to
it's always too
come
quick.
hang, or DJ Equal's always updating me on where you are. So he's like,
Go.
Come here, let's do this, something.
Yeah. He's the best.
Yes, he is the best. Shout to DJ Equal in the house.
Big shout.
But yeah, thank you for taking the time and coming on the show. And I'm excited
Thanks
to catch up
me.
and, just talk to you about everything, like, your own personal career, your Holiday 87 project, the Knocks project. Like, so much has been going on. I saw even just this past weekend, like, there was 2 different things that you guys worked on that were nominated for Grammys.
Yeah, we are officially two-time Grammy losers.
Well, you're
Better than
nominees,
nothing,
I guess. That's
right.
the political way to put it.
Yeah.
But it's better to be a Grammy loser than a Grammy nothing, I guess, right?
Yeah, right. There you go.
What were the 2 projects that were nominated?
We were up for, well, one of them was the best remix, and it was of our song "Slow Song" with Dragonette, which was like our main single off the last album, which is
Right.
it was a Paul Woolford remix. But the funny thing is, actually, if that won, we don't get the Grammy, which seems kind of silly to me as we wrote the song. But like
That's super
any of the
weird.
artists, it's just the remixer. Like I wouldn't have gotten a trophy even if it was art, and it's fucking
That's so
weird.
strange.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but that one lost to Purple Disco Machine, which granted, I think he deserved that song. He had the biggest year ever as a remixer. He did every song ever and like smashed it. He just had a
It was
crazy year.
insane. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he's really
But
dialed in with his sound. I mean, you guys are too,
he
but
is.
he's very dialed
But
in
no,
with.
he's got such a thing. Yeah, and our remix wasn't even. It's funny thing is that it feels like that nomination was almost a nod to the song in a way because the remix really didn't do anything. Like Paul Wolford smashed it. It's a great remix, but like it didn't. Not many DJs played it. It didn't get that many streams, but it feels like I don't know. In our head, we were kind of like it feels like they kind of just wanted to give that song a nod because our song did really well, but it doesn't really fit in like an EDM category and didn't really fit in like a pop category. So I feel like
Right.
giving the remix a nod felt like just kind of a nod to the whole thing, which was cool. And
Right.
then the other one was the Odessa record. We had a feature on their album, and they were nominated for Electronic Album of the Year.
Right.
So that one we would actually got a Grammy because we were a featured artist, but we lost it to a little new DJ named Beyonce.
Oh man, she's pretty dope. Like I've heard her coming up, and
Yeah,
doing her thing, and
yeah, she opened for us back in the day.
yeah, she's. I mean, that's pretty crazy. And I mean, in a way, like what you were saying with, it didn't fit into these categories, and they gave us a nod. Like, I think the Beyonce thing is I
Totally.
guess shows that whole thing where people were arguing about, should she be in the dance music genre? And I think that music has become so, I guess mashed
Yeah.
together that it's hard to classify things within the genre.
Yeah, and people forget that I mean that whole album was like kind of a history and dance, like a lesson in history and dance music anyway.
Renaissance
from the
was.
samples,
Yeah.
from the samples to the references to the other producers is like Black Coffee and all those dudes. I don't know. It just felt very right, and like
Right.
if you're gonna lose a Grammy to anyone, Beyonce is a pretty cool one to lose to, I think.
It's pretty damn cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think anybody that was upset, like, I guess I understand.
I saw a lot of mad ravers on Twitter though. People were like, the furry boot audience was pissed. Yeah.
Right. They're like, is she going to be at the Coachella tent and doing B2B?
Yeah.
It's like, yo,
It's
get
just
over
like the
yourself.
countdown of bad Twitter jokes being like, Beyonce never did Boiler Room, and like, shut up. Like,
Right.
You get it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, what are you going to do? I understand, I guess, their perspective that she's so worldwide famous and pop that it seems a little bit different. And of course, she has like an advantage or something.
Right, of course. And like,
name.
it was to break a record, so I'm sure they wanted to give it to her. But it's also, you got to remember, it's the fucking Grammys. It's like they're trying to get their ratings back.
Exactly. It's the Grammys.
They've been sliding down this hill for so long of like the ratings every year. They're like 50% drop in viewers. And finally, this was the first year, I guess, that it bopped back up a little bit, which is interesting.
Right.
But it was the first time that dance music has been televised, probably because Beyonce was in the category. But maybe that'll be a thing now, which is cool. It was cool to see like the Grammys and then see like the Odessa guys up on the big screen. That's like a big step,
It was great. Exactly. It's like Diplo and you guys and everything. And,
right.
And even I'm watching it with my son, just from that perspective, like a 10-year-old, he's
Right.
saw all that, and he asked me who those people were. He's like, "Who's Rufus the Soul?" And like
Right.
he doesn't
Yeah,
know,
totally.
but it's
Right.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
I get to explain to him like, "Oh, these are these dance music people and DJs and producers and even just him watching the history of hip hop was kind of dope too because he was like, "What's
That
going
was
on?"
amazing. I was geeking. I had left I was with my family at first and I went home and just in time for that. And I was just like up
Yeah,
here, just like smoking a joint, just like rocking out. Me like this is like 14-year-old me is just losing my shit right now, watching this whole thing go down.
the best. Yeah,
Some of it was like hilarious, like as a rap fan, just to like see some of these dudes up there doing that. And then like sometimes, like when fucking the locks came out, I was like throwing my hat in there. I was like, let's go. It was
I know.
so fire.
Hell yeah. And they used the Alchemist beat. Like, it was so dope. It was like,
Yeah,
we
and then
go make it.
Jay Z doing that verse at the end. All my group chat, all my friends in my group chat, are like, this is long, this is boring. I was like, were you kidding me? This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I think that's like the best. I think that's the best Jay Z verse in so long, and I was just loving like every second of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was super dope. I love how they did it. And like having Jazzy Jeff up there doing like real DJing and like,
Right.
and doing his famous DJ. I mean, just from a DJ perspective, and I'm sure all the people listening to this podcast appreciate it. Like seeing Jazzy Jeff do his most famous routine that he uses,
Oh yeah,
and then having LL Cool J up there like reenacting it
yeah.
live, and it was just crazy. And Questlove on the drums, and it was nuts.
I
Grandmaster
know.
Flash,
Seeing that the LL Cool J, the Rock the Bells routine was like, I just like got taken back. I was like, fuck, I hadn't even thought about this in so long. I mean, I used to be a DMC DJ, and that was just like the routine. Like everyone would do it as like a nod.
right?
That whole juggle is like it was just so cool. I was like, man, this is like. I just remember being a kid, being a DJ. I grew up like in Vermont in the woods, being a scratch DJ. I was very like one of the only people probably in a however many mile radius that did that. I used to
Right.
get gassed when I'd see scratch DJs or any of that kind of shit on anything. I'd see a McDonald's commercial or like Incubus had a DJ. I'd be like, "Look, mom, like they're doing what I'm doing. Like it's a real thing." Like, and now to see it, it's like it's a cool to not. I mean, it also felt like very Grammys, like old school. It also made rap feel really old in a weird way. It made me feel really old. Like
Yeah.
it's like when you watch when they do the rock and roll things and like a bunch of like geriatric rockers come out and do their old songs. You're like, oh man, this looks a little hurt. There was like moments of that with the hip hop thing, which like made me check my age a little bit. I was like, damn, I like hip hop's not as fresh as it was when I was a kid. You know what I mean? It's like it's not but it was very cool. It was like I was just geeking as like I've been a hip hop fan my whole life, so it was cool.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. No, definitely. I mean, they had there's a category best historical album. It wasn't even just like, a
Yeah.
genre, and it was like
Right.
Freestyle Fellowship was one of the
Yeah. I saw that.
nominees.
That's crazy.
So talk about
Yeah.
feeling old. I was like, damn, it's not even like best old school hip hop. It was like best historical album, like
Right.
up there with,
Yeah, it's
you
like
know,
classical music.
yeah, it was like some like a wax cylinder that King Tut was listening to or something. Like I don't know what. I'm like historical. Damn, how old
I
are
don't
we at this
know.
point?
And then my favorite thing was Dr. Dre presenting himself with his own award, like
That
the
was
new Dr.
weird,
Dre
right?
award to Dr. Dre. I was like, oh man, that's like a meme. It's like, it's like that was just cracked me up.
Right. I mean, it was dope, and he deserves it. But it was such a strange way to do it. They were like, "It's the first ever Dr. Dre award to himself." It's
Yeah,
like, all right,
yeah. I was like, okay, yeah,
all right, you got it, bud. Yeah. But even that was cool. Like I said, my kid's like learning a lot. He's like, he created beats. And I was like, yeah, Beats by Dre. I'm out here.
yeah, right.
The
Yeah, he
Grammys were
looked a little
teaching.
long. He looked a little long in the tooth. I didn't seen him, I guess, in a while, like on camera, and like I still have that image of him, like when he was like
Yeah.
jacked up, a little older, Dr. Dre, but he felt like he looked like Grandpa Dre a little bit.
The pandemic like did some shit to people. I think, it was like
Yeah,
those
I
3 years,
agree.
two
Yeah,
and a half, 3 years, like to some people was like 10 years or something. I don't know about him,
totally.
but
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%.
there was, I don't know, tired us out or something. I'm happy to just be back working and doing stuff though. And I mean, I think,
Yeah, I was asking you as like, sorry, as such a
yeah, no,
traveling
no, go
DJ,
please.
you like were all over the place, and I feel like you were like almost traveling more than I was in the day, and like,
Yeah.
were you psyched to get back? Was it like the same feeling you had? This is what I've been asking all my kind of touring musician friends. It's like I know a lot of people like kind of had in their head after the pandemic. Like I know we had like a Knox and Friends show, and in my head I was like, this is gonna be so epic. I'm gonna be like sobbing in the DJ booth and like I'm back,
Right.
you know. But it wasn't fully the way I had pictured it. Like I still was very happy to be back, but it wasn't. It almost felt like it was very like riding a bike, where it's like, oh, here we are again. Like there's the bottle, and there's my friends, and we're back in the
Yes.
booth, and it felt like it was yesterday again, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. You know, like you just kind of like it didn't come back in such a way that where we talked about it like on podcasts, like there will be the day we will all be there, you know, like
Right, like
dancing
the Great
together.
Gatsby or some shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, we're all playing the like blessed Madonna, we lost dancing, Fred again, you
Right.
know, song where we're all like
Yeah.
hugging each other, like, yes. Like, I think
Yeah.
it happened at least for me kind of slowly because it would be like, okay, can you do this gig in Vegas in like May? And you were like, do I wear a mask? It's really weird, you know, and just slowly
Right.
but surely for me, I would just like get back into it like, oh, is this going to be okay? And then I think I got COVID like a year ago I was like
Yeah.
in Vegas or a football
Right.
game or something, you know, and it just kind of, yeah, just, and then from there I was like, I'll just go do whatever. But I mean, at the same time, there has been a feeling of, I guess, thankfulness and grateful to be back out working, doing our thing. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen about halfway through. So the fact that we're
Totally.
back out there working and doing stuff, you know, I had sort of a year of, or even a time of yes, where I'm just trying to say yes to as much stuff as possible and remembering that I wanted to work so bad like a year and a half ago. So,
Right.
you know, trying to keep that in perspective. But also I've been pushing myself. Like I've had a crazy past month and a half and I'm exhausted. So I don't know. I'm back to like, I was in my house a couple of days ago, like, I don't want a pandemic to happen again, and it was horrible, but there was elements where I really liked being able to
Yeah.
just sit in my house all the time and not have to make an excuse for it or explain like, yeah, I've been working, so
Yeah.
I'm just going to chill at home. Like everyone just accepted it. So it was kind of nice.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, I'm into that. I definitely appreciate my downtime way more now in a different way. And like
Yeah.
we've been saying no to more things. I feel like almost just because of that. I don't know. It's like
Right.
I guess we're just saying no. We're just also getting older and like saying we've just been like as for Knox stuff, we've kind of been a little bit more selective on what we do, not like burning the candle on both ends as much as we used to.
Right.
Um, but then when I do go do it, it's like I have a blast and it's like great. But I'm like more than ever, there are moments where and it's felt like work a little more at times when in the past I feel like I was just like
Right.
going a million miles an hour and just like this is crazy and like kind of not thinking about it. But now there have been moments. I also like moved upstate and I live in a house now. I live in the woods. It's like, you know, life is different. So it's like it feels like
Yeah.
sometimes it's I don't know. It's just like it's definitely. I just feel like the whole world has shifted in so many ways. I feel like the crowds are a little different. Like people aren't. I've
Yeah.
experienced that like they aren't going as nuts as they might have, or maybe it just feels less of a collective thing at times in certain clubs or certain environments. It's like I don't know. It's hard to
That's
explain.
true.
It's kind of this like intangible thing. But I do
Yeah.
think people like kind of painted it like they're like it was going to be like the Roaring Twenties all over again, and that definitely didn't happen. I don't think.
No, I don't think
If
so.
anything, it made people think about like I think what you're saying, like, oh, this is like it's okay to like take 2 days and just like care about myself and like
Right.
maybe I don't have to go to I like if there's a fun party going on, like I might not miss everything if I don't go. And people are like having a little more fun in other ways too, or like more
Yeah.
self-care, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like, and people have taken that into their life a bit, and like, yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not working this Friday, and I'm not like freaking out about it. Like, and I used to be like, oh, I
Right.
have to be
Yeah,
DJing every weekend, no
totally.
matter what. That's my job. What's gonna
Right.
happen if I'm not?
It was just
And now it's
nonstop.
like, yeah, now it's okay to have the downtime, and you're right. It's just different, and there is elements of everybody was doing their own thing, like musically and in every different way. So when they're coming back together, there's not as much of a cohesive
Yeah, people just
mindset.
got really good at being on their own in so many different ways, whether
Yes.
it's making music alone or whatever. Like hang, I think
Yeah.
people like us we were just go, go, go all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I had to like train myself how to just like be alone and like deal with that. And I think, you know, it's like Stockholm syndrome. It's like, but now I love it, and I like, that's like my
Yeah.
safe place. But it used to be I used to be like, I'm not around people. I'm like used to like being in some crowded place every day. But I kind of learned that I might
Right.
not actually be an extrovert. I was kind of like forced to be an extrovert for my line of work, and I might actually be a
Yeah.
little bit more of an introvert than I thought I was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I feel you. Yeah, there was definitely times I had to push myself to be like, all right, just go out and see people. I know you don't want to, but like this is
Yeah,
part of your job and you want to work more again, so I'll
right.
force myself to go out. And I do have fun once I'm out and it's so nice to see people and, catch
Right.
up. And you
It's almost like
forget
the lead up is worse. It's like the anxiety before
yes,
going out. And then you get
totally.
there and you're like, "Oh, this is great. I love doing this. Why was I like so I was like thinking about this for 3 days." Like
Yes,
now
exactly.
I'm
You're like, I don't
here
want to
and I'm
go out.
having a
Should I
great
go
time.
out to yeah, it's like a whole
Right.
thing. And then also you see people and you don't realize how long it's been. Like you're saying, we haven't seen each other in a while. And I
Right.
went out, these Grammy parties and I was seeing people I hadn't seen since 2020 or 2019. And you don't
Yeah.
realize like how much time has gone by, and it's good just to
I know.
reconnect and
Totally.
hear what other people are doing. But it did lead to other cool things, and I mean, it led to you doing your solo project. I think,
Yeah.
which is so cool. Like, I listened to that when you came out with. I mean, every time you'd put out the single, I would listen to it right away, and then when you came out with the album or EP, I don't know what it was called, but
It's like an
it
album, yeah.
was okay. It was like a full album, I thought, and it was so good. Like I could just put it on all the way through,
Thanks, man.
beginning to end. And it was just like good to drive to or to have on in my house or to actually listen to actively or like passively. And it
Yeah, that
reminded
was
me
kind
of
of the
like,
goal.
really, it like reminded me of
Yeah.
all the music I like over the years, all mashed together, kind of how like the Avalanches or somebody does, but not
Yeah.
in that aggressive way, like in a more
Right.
DJ Shadowish way, I guess, where
Oh
it
yeah.
flows together and it was just like soothing and cool and dope at the same
Man, you're
time. And
saying all
like,
my favorite things.
oh, well,
No, you're
that
nailing it. Thank you. That's like exactly DJ Shadow and Avalanches are two of like my biggest influences, even before I even
really.
was
That's how
yeah, like a
that's what I
professional at
heard.
all.
Like Avalanches is more like, oh, we're doing crazy shit, like,
Right.
and Shadows more like hip hop, trip hop, I guess.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
you were like that bridge mixed with, of course, your own unique sound, like that you can't even
Well,
classify.
thank
But
you.
yeah, it was so cool.
Yeah.
Like I loved it.
It was kind of a challenge to like try to make that. I kind of went set out to try to make a record that you can do that kind of just put on, because that's what I love, listening to music that way. Um, I'm always in my house and I just put stuff on in the background while I'm doing whatever,
Yeah,
and especially electronic music that just sets a tone. And it's funny because I used to, I think as a musician, like kind of like put my nose up at records that kind of all sounded like one thing a little bit. Like, oh, it's so easy, they just do the same thing on every song. But then if you're actually trying to make a record like that, it's harder than it seems to like make everything fit together but still be different, but still have a
right.
sound. Like the Knox records are very much like kind of like genre jumping all over the place. We definitely have our thing, but like it's not like the XX or something where you put on the Knox record and it's like this like washes over you vibe. It's like very
Yeah,
much, it's more like listening music, or like you put on for a purpose. But but yeah, that was kind of the goal with this. It was like almost like the come down, you know what I mean? Like, and I made the
yeah.
whole thing when I was at my parents' house, which is like in rural Massachusetts, and I was very inspired by just like being outside in the woods and just like having stuff that I want to walk around and look at trees to. So I was
Right.
like, because I wasn't
No,
doing
for
anything
real.
else
Same.
with my
Like
days.
I'm in LA, but we're in like the hills, like in Sherman Oaks, and
Yeah,
even like just we would just do these walks every day, like all around the neighborhood, and same kind of thing, just like hearing birds and looking at leaves, and just
right.
like having music like
Yeah,
that to put on your headphones was like the best. And like on
yeah.
Spotify, they have that one playlist, Pollen, I think it's called, and
Oh yeah, I love that one.
I
Yeah,
love that one. It's like that. It's
yeah.
not like exactly that music, but they have some stuff on there
Oh,
that
totally.
it just makes you feel good and think, and like it's funky and like soulful, but also futuristic. And
And I also just
I
wanted
like,
to try making something and just putting it out and not like sending it to anyone and not like having outside opinions, which is like, coming from being on a major label now for 10 years for all the music we put out. There's so many people with opinions and so many people you got to think of when you make it, unfortunately, whether it's managers or
Right.
whatever. And I just like was like told my manager, I was like, I'm just gonna make this, and I'm probably not even gonna send it to you till the whole thing's done. Then I want to release it like the next week it's done. I just want to like
Yeah.
get it. It was like such a cathartic thing. And it's good to hear like everyone I've talked to has kind of given me a similar feedback where it's like they just listen to the whole thing through. They don't like click around or, which is like my favorite. That's
Yeah.
like some of my favorite records like that I listen to. Like that Avalanches, the new Avalanches record, I fucking love so much, and I listen to that thing front to back. Like I don't think I could name the songs or tell you which one, but I've listened to the whole
Right.
album in entirety so many times. Same with like uh, Frank Ocean record, Blonde, like that same thing where I know that record front to back, but I couldn't tell you the name of the sixth song, but I know it when it comes and
Right.
what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
so it's like two different beasts for me, like albums that way, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's great. And so like you mentioned, growing up in like rural Massachusetts, or was that where you
New
grew up?
Hampshire.
New
New
Hampshire.
Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah.
And oh damn, I heard like I was watching the news last week, not to talk about weather, but that New Hampshire got like minus 108 degrees or something. That was like
Yeah,
mind
that's
blowing to me.
insane.
What the
Yeah,
hell? It was like
I mean, even up
Antarctica.
here, I'm in upstate New York, and it was like fucking negative something last week, but then 60 degrees today. But we don't get into weather. But I don't know.
No, I just
The
sorry.
word
Just
still feels like it's.
I was like, what the hell's going on? Like we're about to freeze
Oh
out.
yeah,
But
I grew up in
so
the
growing
tundra.
up okay, we're doing a weather podcast now. So we're doing the Doppler 8000 coming through. We got Snoop
DJs
Dogg.
talk weather.
Snoop Dogg doing the weather would be good. No, but so growing up in New Hampshire, like, how did you get into DJing? How did you get into producing? How did you get into hip hop? Like you said, you were a scratch DJ like back in the day.
Yeah.
How did that even begin? Because there wasn't that much YouTube. There wasn't like
Yeah, it
the
really was.
internet in that
It was.
respect.
Yeah, it makes like when I tell this story, it really makes me feel like it feels so old because it's like I was up there and I loved rap music first.
Right.
I listened to a lot of hip hop. First started like punk, and then I got into from punk. I got into like really kind of producery, like DJ Shadow stuff, and like more. My sister. It's basically like what your siblings have, right? Back then, it was like if your sister has the CD or your older sibling. My older sister was a huge music fan. She had all this cool punk stuff, and she listened to a lot of like DJ Shadow and I got those
Nice.
records and I was like, this stuff is so cool and weird. Like, what is this? And then that kind of transformed into Beastie Boys, like more that kind. Like Beastie Boys to me were the transition between punk and hip hop. And it's like, oh, they're white kids doing this, but they also do like punk music. This is like
Right.
exactly what I like. They were like to me like my fucking idols. Like
Oh, me
I
too.
I I was obsessed. Like any white suburban kid. Then it was like they were just it. It was like, oh, this is okay to do this. Uh,
Yeah.
and that got me into hip hop. And I think that's how I kind of discovered DJing and scratching was probably from Beastie Boys records because they were so heavy with having their DJs involved in all their albums and like the way they used it in the
Totally.
music. And same with DJ Shadow, like he used scratches, but it wasn't just like there's like invisible scratch pickles and stuff where it's like 64 bars of scratching one thing, but they used it in like this kind of musical way
Yep.
that became more of an instrument, which is like that whole turntablism thing. And that's when I got into DJing. But the way I had a friend who had a friend. So this is like how I had to get the gear was my friend had a friend that had been to New York over the summer and he went to like I don't even know. I think looking back at it, it was probably one of those like Canal Street electronics stores that just sell like in the city that just sell like turntables and mixers and like
Right.
mobile DJ equipment, but we didn't have any of that
Yeah.
up at where I grew up. It was like we had Radio Shack and then we had a place that sold like hi-fi turntable gear, like for like some fancy house type thing. And
Yeah.
he brought the catalog back and I had to have him go borrow it from his friend who lived in a different town and bring it into school so I could get this catalog to try to order turntables. I think I just ordered a mixer first and I used my parents' crappy like turntable that was like built into their tape deck. When it's like
Right.
up really high, like on the top of the thing, and I had the mixer down here and I was like scratching the like Bruce Springsteen records, sounding terrible,
Right.
needles going all crazy. But it was just so funny how, you think about it now, it's just crazy that I had to get this physical catalog and like call this number
Yeah.
and give them the order number for like one of those like Gemini belt driven whatever and like a Vestax '04 or whatever fucking mixer. And I got so into it. And I, at the time, once I hit high school, I started getting really into it, and I started selling weed at my school, which was like my source of income. And my parents didn't know how much money I was really making, obviously, because I didn't tell them. So I'd buy this gear, which costed quite a bit of money at the time. You know, like a 1,200 wasn't cheap. Um,
Yeah.
but I'd tell them it cost like $100 because I didn't want them to know I was selling weed.
Right.
So
You're
that's how
like,
I
this
got
is
that's how I
500 bucks.
got all my gear. Yeah, but meanwhile they were like super expensive, and I got like a little 4-track recorder, like a Tascam, and I made these like tapes of like weird, very much just copying DJ Shadow, basically, of like just like break beats with like weird phrases from like scratching, like, you know, those like spoken word
Yeah.
records of someone telling some weird like Little Red Riding Hood, and then go into some weird think I'm bringing in the string section that's completely out of key when you listen to it now, but I thought it was, you know what I mean? I didn't like have any
Yeah.
musical. I didn't come up playing an instrument or anything. It was just all by ear and from like loving gear. I had this little 6-second sampler, and like I got really into that side of thing, and that turned into me producing. Just then I got into kind of making beats, and I met these kids that live in a town over. Um, Shout out to High Flow. That's the band, the group name.
What was it called? Higher
They're like a
flow?
white, hot, just High Flow. Yeah.
High flow.
And
All right.
yeah, real Vermont rap. It was like, you know, 3 white boys from Woodstock, Vermont. I became their producer and DJ, and we like played gigs. We played at like Killington and the ski lodges. We played in Burlington, and like the furthest we ever got was like we played in Providence, which was like the big city for us.
Right.
Um, and Boston, and yeah, and that just kind of turned into. Then I got really into like when the internet came out. That's when everything cracked open for me. It was like I was able to like be on forums. I was on like that turntable, all the turntables and forums, and the hip hop undergroundhiphop.com was a huge one for me.
Oh yeah, me
And
too.
and that's how I started reaching out and like finding out, okay, this is like, it was all, you know, it was all kids from New York and shit on there. And I was like starstruck by these DJs and these people posting these demos, being like, God, this sounds so good. Like, I don't even know how to do this. There weren't like the tutorials yet of like, you know, now on YouTube, you can just look up literally anything and learn how to,
Anything.
like, you want to make a Skrillex bass sound, or you're going to make drums sound like this. Like, you can find anything, like step by
Yeah.
step how to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that. Like, there was a real community on the internet at that time with that stuff. It felt really supportive, and I'd post these little samples of me scratching, and people would give feedback and like all this stuff like that. And that kind of led into me doing the DMC stuff. And I did the DMCs when I did the DMCs before I was 13 when I did the DMCs. And
Wow, that's
yeah,
nuts.
and I made it to the finals in Boston, and A-Track was the judge. And I remember A-Track had to be, he was probably, I think he had just won the world champion. He was like 18 or 17. And I was so starstruck by him because I had seen all the videos of him at the DMCs. I like used to get the VHSs of the DMC battles and watch them.
Yeah,
Um,
same. Me too.
yeah, and he was like the goat, you know. And he was like a young kid, and he was so cool, and he was nice. And he actually did a drop for like my mixtape. I made like a CD, and he like, I sent him a blank tape, and he sent it back with like a shout out with his little Montreal accent on there, sounding all funny. Um, it was it was really good, and like I don't know, it's just like I think the thing that really helped me was I was completely shameless about reaching out to people. I had no to a fault sometimes. Like I would just annoy people, like whether it's trying to get some rapper from like rapmusic.com to rap on my beat. I made like a whole album of like collaborations I did over the internet, basically with all these rappers from who God knows where, all these like kind of like wannabe atmosphere, like white kids from different places, and very like
Right.
underground rap style. I was very into like the backpacker stuff for a long time, like that whole Rhyme Sayers and Def Jux and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I wanted to be like LP, you know.
totally.
And that kind of just was like, that's kind of how I learned how to produce, because I was getting vocals back, and I was learning how to structure a song. Like I remember I could like name the people who taught me that, like, oh, bars, like verses should be 16 bars, you know. Like then there's sometimes a pre-chorus, and you should have a breakdown. The chorus should be 8 bars, and you like, if you want, the vocals should be doubled. There's just these things that you learn that like I didn't, that now you could just literally just sign up for a thing and someone teaches you that, but it just wasn't a thing that you could just like buy a book on at the time, you know, especially when it came to like hip hop production. It was such like
Yeah,
this illustrious thing. I'd always listen to hip hop records and like trying to wrap my head around like, how do they do this? Like
totally.
I have an MPC, but my beats do not sound like high tech. Like
Right.
this is not what my shit sounds like. Uh and there wasn't really like, and I guess, if you grow up in the Bronx or something, like you learn from your older brother who has one, and they teach you, or like you're in the studio with people, and I was
Yeah,
just
you're
like in
down
my
the
parents'
street, like, oh,
basement in
my
the
boy
woods.
has this thing, or I see him,
Right.
that's how they
Yeah.
truncate it or put the swing or something.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like swing, I probably didn't learn until way too late in the game. There's just so much little stuff like that that I was like, damn, I just wish I had like a someone to learn from. And then when I went to college in New York, I actually had this mentor. I signed up. I had a manager in Boston who was like a hip hop manager. He used to work at Koch Records, who did like Dipset and some of the old G Unit stuff, and just like he managed all these rappers. He worked with like AZ and a lot of these old New York rappers, MOP, and I'd go to the studio where all these guys worked. It was like the Koch Studios, and there was this producer named Ill Will there, who not the Ill Will that you've heard from the Nas songs, different Ill Will.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's actually did a lot of the Camp Low stuff,
Oh,
which is awesome. That album's amazing, and they actually shout him out in Lucchini at the end. Ill Will, Subama Red, but he was like,
yes.
but he was a white dude from Boston,
Wow.
older than me, much older than me. But like we had this relationship where I think he like saw a little bit of himself in me, probably coming from where we came from. And he was in Brooklyn and he's running the studio, and he would bring me in on sessions. Because of him, I was in the studio with MOP, Nas, Dog Pound Gang,
Wow.
Chic Luch, Styles, all these New York legend rappers like CL Smooth and all this shit. I was like 17, 18 years old and basically the intern. And I was just like geeking on these dudes. Like I would be in the studio with Fame from MOP. He was making beats on the MPC. I'd like find samples for him and all this stuff. And
That's
I got in the studio with
incredible.
High Tech and Lloyd Banks from G Unit when High Tech was doing all that G Unit stuff. And I was just like
Wow.
bringing these beats in and eventually I ended up making money off the internship because like some of the stuff that I'd work on with Will got placed, and we did a Mob Deep record. Like all this hip hop shit. But this was like in that era where everything was either on a mixtape or not. It was like there were like you'd maybe get it on the album on the CD, but CD sales were already dying because of Napster and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
streaming hadn't started yet. Um, so I don't know. It was just like that weird time where I did a lot of stuff with Dipset too, like J.R. Ryder and those dudes. I did like One Cameron record and Hell Rel, all that stuff. It's like I was just like in the trenches on this like New York rap stuff, and it was really cool. It was like as a kid from Vermont, you can imagine, or New Hampshire, I was just like losing it.
Oh
But I
my
wasn't
God.
making
It's
any
like
money.
dream come
They were,
true.
yeah, it was just all clout. And my parents were like, "So you making money?" You're like, "No, mom, but I was with AZ. Do you know who AZ is?" I was like, "No, Ben, I don't know who AZ is." But it was like all my like
Like, you
New
don't know
York
Lil Fame?
rappers.
He's like,
Yeah,
fire.
yeah, literally. But it was like all that, and I just like learned how to be around. I just, it's like kind of a lesson in just like being around rappers and not being like, I was so like anxious to do stuff to try to show them beats. I'd like be like feel like I was gonna pass out playing them beats and watching their reactions. It was so stressful.
Yeah.
But I yeah, and that was like my first step into like learning how to really produce and make music.
That's
And that's
incredible. That's so crazy. I
I
mean,
think
and it's really like, it comes from where a lot of, I think, us DJs come from, just loving the music
totally.
and like loving
I was
DJing
such a
and really
fan.
just playing that game of like figuring shit out. You know what I mean? Like that's what hip
Right.
hop was all about back in the day. We were trying to figure out the sample. We were trying to figure out how they made the drums like that,
Yeah.
where how they just made it sound like that and the scratches, and like we would just sit
Right.
there and try to figure out one sound, like how'd they make it go diddle a dip it, or like whatever
Yeah.
that sound
Yeah.
was, the
Totally.
DJ Premier
No.
scratches or all that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was
So
like
like,
I don't know.
yeah,
You just had that hustle mentality too. I was still walking around
right.
New York City handing out flyers for my mixtape and like trying to leave things around for like, doing like the real shameless promotion. And like I'm so grateful for that time because I think it taught me
Yeah,
probably patience like more than ever,
yeah,
and like just to like kind of stick to something. But yeah, it felt like this like this lesson in just is in being in a studio and lesson in being around artists. Obviously, like old New York rappers are a special breed. It's not the same thing as working with like a pop star.
right.
But you just learn the game that way. And from there, I started DJing in New York as a day job, and DJing got me into dance music a little more and electronic music and learning how to make people dance at the club. And I got a little burned by the hip hop stuff eventually just because I kept not getting paid. It was just like, they'd take your beats and that whole story. They'd use it on a
Ooh,
mixtape. or you just make a billion beats and like still not you finally place one and you get like $1,000 and you're like, oh shit, this is it. This is like you don't get like this is you wouldn't get like publishing. You know what I mean? It's just like these like weird like very like street deals.
Right.
And that kind of made me transition into doing our own thing in the city. And we opened the story is long, but we opened a studio and we started
No,
developing
I
our
want to
own
know
artists
it.
and
So
trying to.
yeah, because that's what I was wondering. Like, how'd you go from? Because you wanted to be the backpacker, you wanted to be LP and Company Flow, and then you
Right.
were going in the battles and A-Track, and obviously there's so many different aspects to like look up to as a DJ and try to be, and then you're very versatile with liking all the different types of music and punk and knowing all that stuff, and there were like rock bands that had DJs too, so I think there was
Totally.
different ways to look, but yeah, that's what I was wondering, like how you then went from that into the day job of DJing where you just make money from it, and then transition to actually like having your own studio in New York and meeting J-Pat and like creating the Knocks, and like
Yeah.
how did all that go down too?
So that was like after when I was doing that hip hop stuff, I had met J-Pat through a friend, and we both needed roommates at the time. J-Pat was already a hip hop producer. He was doing a lot of stuff just on his own, like same thing where he grew up in kind of suburban. I mean, he's from the Bronx originally, but went to high school in Connecticut in the suburbs. So
Okay.
he also was pretty heavy on the forums and doing this stuff online and like trying to sell beat. We were both like trying to sell beats at the time on like SoundClick, I think was the website where you like
Okay.
sell beats for like $400 on the internet, and we lived together, and we were both like wanted to do this. We were both like doing individual production stuff on our own, and we started working together, and that's kind of how we formed the Knocks. And we started working with this like rapper from New York that we were kind of developing and did all the music for and released on our own, and nothing really happened with that. And then I started DJing more and getting into the scene in New York a little bit, and I met this like cool New York singer kid named Samuel, who was like a born and raised New Yorker who like kind of was a singer songwriter, but kind of wanted to make more like, I don't know how you describe it now. It's almost like postal service or something, but like a little bit more cool, a little bit more like beat based. I don't know. It's like that era of like very early 2000s where it's like everything was just kind of like indie pop vibe.
Yes.
And we developed him. I say developed. I don't really like that word because I feel like it sounds like I'm like doing a science project. But like we worked with him, and we all kind of developed together. and
Yes.
and I ended up managing him while also producing the music. And we got him a record deal at Columbia Records, like for like no money. But we got a deal, and we were like, this is it. We made it. We got a fucking deal for our guy. We producing all the music. They sent us out to LA to work with Greg Wells, who did like the Katy Perry record and all this stuff. And then, long story short, he ended up getting dropped, and that didn't really pan out. So then my full-time job was DJing in New York.
Right.
And I mean, I loved it. It was just like, as a 20-year-old being a DJ in New York City, it was that time when also like, DJs were like, it was like the AM era when like you were a rock star if you were like a cool DJ in New York City. It was just like such a cool time, It's like
Yeah.
I was playing like four or five nights a week at all those clubs. And I think I got pretty burnt out on it. I think I just like went too hard, and then all of a sudden, at the end of the day, I always wanted to be a producer more than I wanted to be a club DJ. I loved club DJing. I don't really think I didn't like practice ever or like spend time like, for a while it felt like, oh, this is easy. I just naturally DJ. But then as I started getting bigger gigs and more important clubs, like, the ones like you and Equal Play, where like I'd get up there and like Jesse Marco would be on after me, and he'd just be like flipping between songs so fast, and I'd be like, I'm just not that I'm not that kind of DJ, where I just kind of like stopped practicing that kind of stuff a little bit, I think. And I got a little overwhelmed.
Right.
I got a little over my head in the club stuff, and I started like butting heads with club owners, because at the same time I had production stuff going on. So I had this kind of ego where I felt like, this guy can't tell me what to do. Like I'm just doing, you know what I mean? I don't know. I just
I'm not, this DJing shit isn't my only thing. Like I can just, I got other stuff going on and plans for the future, and it's hard to deal with annoying club managers.
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, but if you're really good, it's one thing. And I just like, and I'm not saying I was bad, but that's why I think playing dance music was better for me, because I'm just like, I'm more at setting the vibe and taking my time versus being really quick, and like, especially with, and I feel like there was an era when I stopped listening to new rap music, and that's like obviously hard when you're trying to DJ at top 40 clubs, and I'm like still playing like ODB and they want the new Migos, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I'm just gonna play Nas.
Yeah,
like,
that's actually something I'm dealing with now. Like coming back from the pandemic, where I'm like,
oh yeah,
holy shit! Like I was listening to Holiday '87 the whole time, and I'm out here. They're like,
yeah, it's like
you got to turn up. Like I did this party Friday night in LA, and they were like, oh, it's a private party. And I'm like, okay, is there any other information? Like I show up and I just figure it's going to be like some background thing. And they're like, all right, DJ Khaled and Russell Simmons and Kevin Liles and all these people are about to walk in. You got to turn up. And they want and the president of the Recording Academy, and she wants all new hip hop. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm not ready for this. And I'm playing, and like you said, I'm playing Migos, but that is like old now. You know what I mean? So
that's
it's
old
like,
now, right? Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, no, you got to play,
like, Poopy.
Yes, exactly. They were like, you got to put on Nardo Wick and the Stiletto Girls, or like, I don't even know. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm trying to download. And so, yes, that's been a new, or going to Vegas or going to these events I did last month for these like snowboarders. They want all new hip hop. And I'm like, I don't even know the stuff.
Well, yeah, and that was the most frustrating, because then we started the Knocks thing. Started me and Jane like putting out our own music when like Hype Machine days were happening. We kind of just did it like we'd make these. We made a little dance record that like didn't really fit, because we were trying to, at the same time we just wanted to be producers like for other people. We wanted to be like Dr. Luke or something. We were like trying to pitch these big pop records. We signed a publishing deal, and we were going out to LA and doing those sessions with all these writers being like, Britney Spears needs something that it's like Cyndi Lauper but meets like trap but meets country, and you'd be like, what the fuck? And it's like that whole pitching pop music thing was just such a lost cause, and we just hated it.
Really?
We just wanted to make like cool stuff, because we weren't really those super producer types. We just we still made like kind of weird indie stuff because we were working with this kid. And then on the other side, we'd make like, I'd still be making like weird sample based stuff. And so we came back and like made a couple dance records, like these like weird kind of electronic things. And they took off on Hype Machine and SoundCloud. At the time, that was when SoundCloud was really like popping. Like you put a song on, you get like 20,000 listens in a day if it was on a Hype Machine.
Right.
And that got
Hype Machine was massive. I mean, that's how I would find out about so many songs, blogs, everything. Yeah. And then it would just blow up, and then every DJ would have it, or SoundCloud fan and stuff.
Yeah. And that like got the Knox stuff going, was really because we did all these remixes kind of like for free pro bono, and just got them up on Hype Machine, and it got us a record deal with Interscope, which ended up not panning out well, because they just like didn't know. It was like Maroon 5 and us, and they're like, we don't know what to do with you guys. And we were just like, we don't either. And we didn't know what we wanted. We were just like, we had that song Dancing with the DJ that kind of, oh, sorry, am I out of frame?
No, it's all good.
We had that song Dancing with the DJ that kind of took off internationally, and like kind of just like got a bunch of plays on the internet. And that was kind of it. And then they wanted us to make a whole album. We were like, we don't even know what we are. This was just like kind of it was like, we wrote Dancing with the DJ, like walking to the studio one day, like as a joke, and the chorus of it. And like, it just kind of happened. So like, and then we tried to make a record, and they were like, you should put Kesha on Dancing with the DJ. And we're like, no. And then it just like, it was just like kind of that classic thing that like when you signed a Nightmare record deal.
Right.
So that was,
I think it's hard because you guys do have this amazing sound that everybody likes, but it is specific too, and you like to do your own thing. So from a record label, they're probably like, we can turn this into something, but you're like, no, and your sound, I mean, I've played some of your records before for people that don't know it, and they'll keep dancing, and I feel like that's like a big deal, like like or like that. I remember that because a lot of times, even if it's like a famous artist, like, and you'll play it and they're like, no, we don't like this. But like that song you guys have with Wyclef, I feel like was
Kiss the Sky.
I could play that at like bottle service clubs in the middle of my set, and like it just had such a good feeling, and like people would keep going and dancing, and I think it was like unknown pop or something, so it's probably why the record labels were
because they didn't know where to put us, because we didn't fit with like the super pop obvious stuff, and we didn't fit with like the really cool underground stuff. We were kind of like in this weird in between, which we still kind of live in that space, but like that's always kind of been the double-edged sword. It's like, I don't know, it's like it's great because we're very accessible, but at the same time we're like kind of just like floating in this middle ground.
Right. But even that sound now is like cool. I feel like the new Miley Cyrus and like Rita Ora and like,
Right.
Harry Styles.
All
I mean,
that
like
stuff.
all of it is reminiscent of what you guys have been doing forever. I feel like in a way,
Yeah.
you know.
I think a lot of people are going back to that kind of era of stuff where it's like, I think pop dressed up a little cooler.
Yeah.
But that's why I had to keep DJing too, is because like we weren't really making money as the Knocks. I got like a record deal and that kind of wore off. So me and J-Pad still had to do these DJ gigs. And that's when I really started getting the ego, because like we go play a show at a college for like 10,000 kids and make like some good money, but we weren't getting as many of those. So I'd still have to go do like a club here and there. And then when the club guy started telling me what to do, I was like, bro, like I am past this. Like I can go
Yes.
DJ on my own. I put out music, you know, and the final straw was I DJ'd Up and Down in New York City. Remember that place? I'm sure you played there.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And the guy, I don't name any names, but the guy came up to me just like, nah, bro, you gotta turn it up. You gotta turn it up. I'm bringing another DJ. I'm gonna bring another DJ. I just wasn't giving a shit. I was like just here with my friends being like, this is a way to get free booze. I'm gonna do this gig. And I ended up being like, okay, yeah, cool. And I pulled the fucking I pulled my Serato out, and I think I pulled the power on the mixer or something, and I just cut the play. I took the headphones out and plugged it in the microphone thing, and I killed the music and said "Party's over" the speakers, and pulled all the and pulled the sound. And like half the club walked out, and they thought like the club was done, but it was like still like 1 a.m. or 12:30 or something. And the guy got so mad, I just walked out, and he's like, "You're never coming." I was like, "Yeah, no shit, I'm never coming back here, bro. Fuck you." Like, but that was like my last straw. Yeah, 100%.
Just play that and you're out. That's amazing. I love that story, and that's a perfect ending to all those people talking shit to you. You know what I mean? And you not just being like, "I can't deal with this. I'm out." No, I've done that too. I've also pulled the USB and ended the night and gotten in a massive argument with. I
feel like the best DJs all have a story of walking out. Yeah,
you're gonna hit that moment. Yeah, it's just like. Also, why do they talk to us like that? You know what I mean? It's like, come on, guys. If you're listening to this podcast, you don't need to speak to us like that. You know, it was like that. Even like you were saying, happened to me recently too. And they kept saying. This girl was like, "Yeah, no, you need to make it lit." And I was like, "What?" And then she goes, "You need to make it lit." And I go, "Well, what like artists or songs or genres are you thinking of?"
Yeah.
You know, and she's like,
as if there's just a button that's going to make everyone in the room just have fun all of a sudden. Like, no matter what song, sometimes the vibe, sometimes it's not your fault. It's like the vibe isn't right. It's like also like I said, I just feel like the environment in clubs is different now than it used to be too. I just feel like I don't know. I haven't been to a club where I felt the same. I'm also just older, but I just don't feel that same like fire in the clubs like I used to. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like,
and even at these events, like we know,
especially those
human
events.
psychology, you know, like people are like, they're not just going to dance because you put on like Avicii. You know what I mean? You're like, here we go, boom. And they're all dancing. Like they're humans. No. They want to talk, drink. They need a lead up to it. You know, you play some funky music and then like get them going. But like, yeah, sometimes the people there just have a false impression of how it works, you know, and they're like, do this. You know, she was like, make it lit, but I'm not saying that's twerking so lit, but lit. I'm like, oh, not twerking lit, but lit. Okay.
So here's the meter of lit and twerking lit, different kinds of lit.
Damn, you're making it twerking lit. That's way too much. I was like, all right. And then I had been DJing for 2 hours, and she comes up like, where was this the whole time? And I'm like, this was happening the whole time, but the crowd is different now. It's not me. Trust me.
Yeah. You know? They've had some drinks. Like, they're having fun now. Like, relax.
That's how it works. All right. Well, sorry to interrupt the story, but yeah, so that's you know, incredible way to end your bottle service DJ career and just go full force into the Knocks.
And then from there, it kind of like we made really the turning point was making that song Classic, and
which is a classic. I will say, dude, I play that song.
It takes balls to make a song called Classic and help it that it does well.
It really does. It really does. But that song is so dope, dude. Like, it's a classic, but it's so funky. Like, I love everything about it. Like, just the count in is dope just from a DJ perspective, because I can scratch it a million times, and I take like the 1, 2, 3 and the hey, and I could like bring it in and just like the bass line and the drums and the vocals and like, I don't know, everything about that is just like a perfect song to me, and just like I can I've never gotten sick of it. Like, no matter what, if I'm listening alone or if I'm playing it at a gig, it's just such a good song. And I feel like even when people don't know it, like, it's the kind of song they can just walk around the party like bobbing their head, like, I'm feeling good right now. Like, it's like,
yeah, it's funny. It's funny how many
confidence.
people know the song. It's funny how many people know the song, but definitely don't know who made. It's like one of those songs. Like
Right.
we've never been one of those artists to put ourselves out there really like as these like. We don't like do the chain smokers thing where we didn't like put our faces everywhere and like push. We
Right.
kind of just like are more about always been more about just making the records and that song got so big. It's like it was such an instant thing with that record where it still was also it was like kind of pre-streaming. Like Spotify wasn't really crazy yet.
Yeah.
So it came out at a weird time where like it was still Hype Machine and SoundCloud and people buying stuff on iTunes. So like I feel like if it had been on Spotify, it could have gone the distance.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's this like weird kind of underground, not underground, but like people know it everywhere. But even if they don't know it, they like hear it and they're like, oh, I know this song. And then like but not everyone would be like, oh, it's the Knock. They just know, they just such a familiar riff or something. They know it from like the Coke commercial or just they've heard it out before. And it's yeah, and that kind of changed everything for us. That got us a record deal with Atlantic, which was the deal that now we just finished, which was like 10 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
And that made a couple.
And so
albums.
how did that record like come about, like making it? And then, what happened from when you put it out?
That was off on our LA trip and we had just got dropped from Interscope and we were like in this weird, like, oh, what do we do? We don't know. Let's go right in LA. And our friends Powers Mike, the guy from Powers, was a New Yorker, and we knew him from the earlier days. Like when we were working with that kid Samuel, he would work with us,
right?
And it was actually like an extra day we had. We weren't even planned, and of course, it's always happens this way. We just like stopped by his studio, and like we just like ended up jamming and coming up with the piano part and the guitar part and the main chorus. And we're like, well, this feels like something. And then the rest we kind of went and finished it in New York and went back and forth a little bit with him. But it was one of those things. It's like always, it's the same thing. Dancing with a DJ. We wrote it walking down the street. Classic happened probably in a span of 2 hours, the main part of it. It's like the best shit always just happens, A, when you're not expecting it, and B, when you're like not trying. It's like every time
don't
you
let
like
your
set
brain
in to go with someone
screw you over by like overthinking your way out of shit. In the same way your Holiday 87 mix, album, sorry, was like, I'm just gonna do this and put it out, and it ends up being something you can listen to infinitely, really, because you didn't like overthink it and like tinker with it too much, I guess.
Exactly.
And there's scratches in Classic too, right? I love hearing that little Classic.
Yeah, the Cuckoo Classic. That's actually from a Nas sample. My dog is
it is?
Yeah.
We got animals on this podcast.
We didn't clear that.
I thought it was J-Pat. I thought maybe you took J-Pat's voice.
I think a lot of people do.
Because it kind of sounds
like what song it's from? It's from that remember when he did that like Reebok Classic song? Do you remember that?
Oh wow.
It was like Nas and some random other rappers, like a total like commercial, like weird song, and I found acapella and we pitched it down obviously, but yeah, that's what that's from.
Yeah, it's like classic.
I was psyched to have a scratch in there. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I heard that. That's what makes me like it even more. The little scratch in there. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I'm working on some new stuff with my buddy, and it's way back in that DJ Shadow kind of vein, and I've been scratching. Now I got my studio built downstairs, and I got like the turntable set up to my. I never really had them set up to like my rig. They were always kind of like off your speaker, just like jam and stuff. But now I have them set up, and I'm just like, does this need scratches? I'm always like, does this need scratches? I'm like back into scratches on songs. I feel like it's like I don't know. I could see it like coming back in records, especially in like the cool, kind of beat driven stuff, like the avalanches-y kind of stuff. You kind of want to hear the scratches. And I went and listened to Check Your Head by the Beastie Boys the other day, and I just forgot how much scratching there is on those records. Like, and it's so cool. It's like so well done. It's incredible.
The best. I mean, it was like you said, that's what got me into all that too. Like I was listening to all that, a lot of the same story you told basically, but listening to Check Your Head was like, what the hell? There's so much DJ
production
shit on
that
here.
Stuff is insane though. It's just like you listen to that, it's like, how did they make this? I don't know. Those guys were just ahead of their time.
They were crazy. And then because I hadn't even heard Paul's Boutique until after Check Your Head. And then someone's like, no, you got to hear the album before. And I went back. I was like, what the hell is this? And then that final track with all the songs put together, it was almost like a DJ set right there. And it was just like, blew my mind.
fun fact: our studio that we found in Chinatown, like the first one that we got when we were like broke as shit, was we didn't know this, but 3 years into it, I was watching a old Yo MTV Raps, and it was with the
Yeah.
Beastie Boys, and they're with Cool Herc or someone like that, and they bring him down, to this Chinatown studio, and they go, "This is where it all started, our first studio and apartment," and they're standing outside of our studio, and they're like, "We
What?
started in the basement here. We used to live here." So our first studio
Oh
was
my
literally on the
God.
same floor, same building as the Beastie Boys, and it's 55 Christie, which was they had a song called there's like a secret song on Paul's Boutique
Yeah.
called 55 Christie. And that was this address of our studio on the same floor that they tell these stories about living there and like how they had their first studio there and their rehearsal space.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was our first studio. So I feel like I owe my whole career to the juju of the Beastie Boys being in that space.
For sure
And
you
that's why
do.
our first album, the first Knox album, was called 55. Like
Really?
paying homage to
Oh,
that building. Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, when you say that address, I just remember from being a teenager and reading it on the,
Right.
the
Yeah.
Beastie
Yeah.
Boys thing. Like, I don't know what this means, but it's cool.
Yeah. Anything they did was cool.
Anything, yeah, same. I would go to New York and find that corner, like, oh my God, this is crazy. That's on the
Right.
album. That's so
Where are
dope.
you from originally again?
I'm from here. I'm from LA.
Oh, you are from
That's
here.
where I am
Okay, I
right
didn't
now.
know. Okay. That's what I
Yeah, I
thought.
grew up,
Okay.
born and raised LA. I have, connections to New York. Like my parents are from New York and I just love it and feel like
Okay.
I don't know, my blood is from there. But yeah, grew up
Right.
here and just have gone to New York a bunch of times through my life and love it out there. And just from DJing and hip hop and music. And, like you said, I got to go
Right.
out when I was a teenager and be like, oh my God, I'm at Fat Beats. And, just
Oh
trying
my
to
God,
take it
yeah.
all
I
in.
remember going to Fat Beats for the first time. Like, I have like my photo in front of it, like standing in front of Fat Beats. The
Yeah,
place was
like
amazing.
oh yeah, I'd go in there all nervous, like, okay, I can't, I gotta act like I know everything about everything.
Totally. Yeah, and it was such a thing. The whole hip hop and that whole like energy of like being a hip hop head in the early 2000s or late 90s. It's like it was such a funny thing, like especially as like a white kid, like suburban
Yeah,
kid. You're just like, it was that. It was walking into a record store and being like, keep it cool. Like,
yeah,
you know what
like
I mean? Like,
yeah, like you act like you know everything, even though you know nothing, and you totally try not
yeah.
to be yourself.
And you act so tough. Yeah. And like,
Right?
I remember doing the DMCs and like trying to plug my headphones in, and my hand was shaking so much I couldn't even like plug my. I was so nervous.
Oh
I was
my
like,
God,
"Oh, this is insane." I was like, "They don't
that's
teach you
nuts.
that to practice." But when I'm practicing my 6 minute routine a billion times to
Yeah,
like account for your hand shaking the whole time, I was trying to put the
right.
needle on, and I was literally just like, it's like so bad.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean that is true though. That's what I always say. Like you could practice as much as you want, but once you're there, it's so different with the crowd in front of you, and the time moves
Totally different.
faster. Like everything moves way
Oh
faster.
yeah. Yeah, it's a weird, yeah. After that one competition, I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. This is not, I don't like competitive music. This is a weird
No.
feeling.
Same. I'm
Yeah.
like, I like scratching and I like all the elements of it, but I don't want to be in the competition. Like, it's too much.
No. And people took it so serious. Those DMCs were such like an intense thing.
Yeah. And so,
Do they still
so
do the DMCs?
yeah, but I think they did it online through the
Okay.
pandemic, and then I don't know. I think
And they
they.
I know they
I
have like
should
different
know,
they
but
have like now they now have it for like producers and like finger drumming and like all the different element and like all the different stuff. It's not as it was such a big thing for a while. Like we did it at BB King. It was like a huge show. I don't think they do it at a venue that big nowadays, probably.
right. I think yeah, and I think it became very worldwide with the with the internet and being able to compete on
Yeah.
there, and maybe they have an in person and online. I don't know. Sorry, DMCs.
Yeah.
But I know they're still doing it, and I know like some of the people winning have been like young women like have been winning, which
Oh,
is
that's
pretty
fire.
dope to see. Yeah, like
Yeah.
they're like young teenage girls like that are killing all these
Yeah,
dudes.
I love when I see videos on Instagram of like some viral video of some like little kids scratching on vinyl on like a normal like
Great.
1200. It's like I'm glad people are still. It's not all
Yeah.
just like Serato and fucking CDJs and or sticks. It's like it feels like there's still a thing there, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Um, and so like, talking about like the 55 Christie and all that stuff, like, so was that, you guys eventually at Heavy Rock Studios, was that the same place or?
Yeah, that was the first form of it. It's been through three versions. So there was that. The first one was the BC Boys basement thing, And then we moved up to the top floor of that same building, which was a little
Right.
nicer and bigger. And we were there for like 7 years or something. And then only in the past 5 years, we opened one. We moved it to Lafayette Street in Soho, which is where we were up until the pandemic. And then
Right.
we passed it on to some friends. It's still there. And it's great because it's still like the kid who runs it now was the old intern of that first space in the basement. So it's very like, it's all very
Family
still in the
affair.
family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so it's great. But yeah, you know, running a studio, when we first ran it, we couldn't afford to keep it. So we had to rent it out to people. We couldn't just use it for ourselves because we had to pay rent.
Right.
So we'd like, through my manager that I had who worked with all those rappers, he'd rent it out for all these rappers. The characters that came through here, I have photos, but it's like we had like 50 Cent was in there, Eric B,
Wow.
what's his name? Nicki Minaj was in there when she was first with Dipset. Remember, remember she used to be down with Dipset? Like that, she was discovered by the A&R of Dipset, which is a weird fact that people don't know. And she was
I
like
didn't
Dipset
know that.
affiliate first. Yeah, and she
Wow.
came in. There's a photo of her in there that like she's not even recognizable. Like Spank Rock, all these like people of that era, and we'd rent it out for them, but it was great. But then like
Yeah.
we would barely get our own time because we just like need to pay the rent. So then like we'd go in like at like really late at night or the next morning and use it, you know. But and then that got exhausting because it felt like we were running a business more than like having a creative space for ourselves. We'd be in there
Yeah.
like sweeping up blunt guts from MOP the night before and like cleaning up like
Oh my
emptying
God.
beers and all this shit. Yeah, it was like, you know, it was like running a business, and we had the whole thing, and it got a little stressful, I think, and kind of let itself go. Once we started touring more and trying to let other people look after it, just became this like it was tough. So then finally when we switched to the new spot, we were like, we're not going to rent this out. We don't need to rent this out anymore. We can, and we like share it with a couple, like another producer friend, you know,
Right.
versus just like we used to like really try to rent it out. We'd like have it listed up on like Craigslist and flyers and like studio space, you know what I mean? Like really
Wow.
tried to
Yeah.
rent it like a studio. But then like the era of studio spaces kind of died. Like all those same people that would come in just to record over a beat, like some rapper can now just do that in their bedroom, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, you don't
Doing their
like
iPhone or something.
the studio business is a little, yeah, the studio business is like not such a great business these days. Like the old school idea of like a studio,
Right. You
since
almost
there's
have to
so
have
much you can
like
do
the
at
most
home.
insane studio ever or something that they
Right.
can.
It's almost more for the vibe. Yeah. Especially nowadays. It's like if you just want a room to bring all your friends into.
Right. And so you guys, the Knocks, have a new album, or your most recent one is called History.
Correct.
What what's the deal with that? You know, like when did you guys come out with that? Are you gonna like, you know, you're touring around and promoting it or
Yeah,
stuff like that?
that was what we were working on when I saw you last, when we rented this house in LA and basically built a little like makeshift studio there.
Yeah, that was
And
dope. Great vibes.
it was yeah, it was like a porn star house in the hills or something. It was
That was
like
amazing.
it's
Yeah.
funny because we also knew it was like our last album with the major label, and we kind of had a feeling that we didn't really want to sign to a major label again after this. So we were kind of like, let's just like
Right.
do it and like go to LA and get this like gross porn star house and just like have friends over and do that whole thing. And it was great, and it actually ended up working so much better than in the past when we've gone to like work at Atlantic Studios or we get an Airbnb and go to a studio every day because like we were living in it. It felt like, and like people just came to
Right.
us, and we had our own little zone. Um, and that's where we made most of the record. At least the main singles we did there. We had one with Teed and Muna and Foster the People and stuff, and they all came there, and we did it there. And then the pandemic happened like right when we were wrapping, so the timing was kind of good because we got all these things
Right.
started, and then we were like locked away to work on them on our own, which was fine. And then we had to do a few more songs remotely. But the main thing was that we didn't really want to release the whole album during a pandemic. During the pandemic, we
Yeah.
wanted to wait, which was cool because it gave us a lot of time to really sit on everything, which usually I feel like in the past we've always been like, go, 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 the song's done, like finish it, let's get it out. Now we had all this time to like reflect and be like, you know what, I think we could make this verse better. I think the drums could be better on this. And like that can get dangerous because you could just keep working on something until you destroy it. So
Right.
but I think at the point where we're at with our ears, like I trust ourselves enough to take time with stuff. But it was nice to like sit on it. It's almost less about um like like tweaking, because I feel like you get the majority of stuff done in that first bulk of work. It's more about like sitting on stuff that long makes you realize if the song has lasting power, even just as the core of a song, not even just like, oh, the drums could smack part. It's like the core of the song, the songwriting itself. Like there are certain songs that I find myself keep going back to that I kept wanting to listen to, like that I could just tell I wasn't sick of yet. And then I'd find myself skipping
Right.
other songs. Like, you know what, maybe that song's not right if I'm sick of this one already and it's only been
Yeah.
this long. You kind of put yourself in the listener's chair for a bit. You like go away and don't listen to it for a month and a half and then act like you're a listener, you know? Um,
Yeah.
which was nice. And now I kind of want to make all our records that way, like really take our time. Um, and yeah, now we did a tour around it. It was great. Live touring is really tough right now. Obviously,
Right.
it was just a weird time for trying to bring a whole crew around a tour bus. It was expensive, but it was fun. I'm glad we did it. It was kind of like touring during after the pandemic is just weird, especially with live instruments and the whole crew and all that stuff. It's just unless it's almost like you either have to be touring on a really small scale,
Yeah.
or DJing, or be really massive. It's like the people in our level where we're kind of in between playing the 1,000 cap rooms, 1 to 2,000 cap rooms. We're the ones that are kind of getting screwed because you don't
Yeah.
make enough money off tickets to make even if you like our whole tour was basically sold out and we still ended up we made a little bit of money, but like the bottom, like we still, you know, you lose money initially, then merch and whatever brings you back. But like we didn't make much money. It's just like weird to think that like we just sold out a tour of 1,000 cap plus rooms and we're
Right.
and everyone, like I feel like your friends are like, oh, you're rich, you just did a solo tour. It's like, no, we actually like had to pay to do that, which is such a weird thought that that's the thing. You don't think
So
of that when you're a
weird.
kid. You're like, oh, if you're playing a sold out room, you're rich, you're a rock star. You know what I mean? But it's like
Yeah.
it's not the case. We make more money playing some, obviously, you know, like some corporate gig when no one's watching and
Yeah.
whatever. Um,
That's
so it's
crazy
tough, but
though.
like,
So I mean, and there's no
yeah.
way to make it monetarily work.
There is, but then it takes away from, you know, it's like if we wanted to just go up there with me and JPat and like a laptop and like or make it just DJing, cool. But we've just kind of held the standard for having a full live show now. Like we
yeah.
don't have a band; it's still just two of us, but we have a lot of stuff up there. We had like LED wall visuals, so it's like all that stuff really adds up, especially now post pandemic with the supply chain and that whole thing, and like just inflation in general. Like touring
Right.
costs have gone up. People who weren't touring for all of pandemic, crew members and stuff, raise their rates because they need to make back the money they lost, which is fair and they deserve it. Um,
Yeah.
but it was fun and it felt like it almost felt like I mean, yeah, it felt like another life after coming from the pandemic, being back on a tour bus and like doing that. I was like, man, I haven't done this in so it felt like a different person, you know.
Right. Yeah. And you've
But it
toured
was
in
fun,
many different levels, right? I mean, you guys toured with Justin
totally.
Bieber for a while. So
Yeah,
that's
that was
probably one
really
of the
wild.
biggest budget tours there is. I would imagine.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
was the same thing. We were doing live, but we were lucky because we had the same management at the time. We were with Scooter, so he
okay.
gave us fees that made it so we didn't lose money,
Oh,
which
and
was
you were kind
lucky.
of part of that tour, so it was like built in a
Right.
way where you weren't
Yeah.
paying for the
But that
tour
was
bus and
crazy.
everything. What the hell?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
that must have been like
yeah,
just a
that was a once in a lifetime thing. We we
yeah. That's
did
what I was
3 months
thinking.
in Europe, and
Wow.
it was like 20 to 50,000 cap rooms.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
and we're
How
going
was the
out there opening for the
response?
biggest
Like,
pop star in the
yeah,
world,
that's the thing.
playing
Like
Dancing
I've
with the
opened up.
DJ.
Were
It
people
was
like
so weird.
into it? Like, was it good vibes or was it
Yeah,
different
yeah,
everywhere?
it was different. I think half like it was, luckily for us, the crowds I think were just, especially in Europe, like they just love
Yeah.
Bieber so much that anyone on that tour could have gone up there and played, and they
Right.
would have been like, "Woo!" You're like they
Yeah.
to the untrained person. That means like if we're on stage opening before Justin Bieber, we're best friends with Bieber, probably, which we are not, but we
Yes.
like we're, you know what I mean, like but they
Right.
think it's all like this
To
whole
them,
thing. I
you're
don't know.
all sleeping in the same bed that night and
Right, right, right.
sharing
But and it
jelly
was
beans.
fun, and like the crowds were great. But I think at the end of the day, I don't think we even got that many fans off it, which is like always the case when I've heard people opening for these huge pop acts. Like I had a friend open for Katy Perry, and a friend open for like Pink or something, and like everyone I talk to, it's always like, yeah, it was a good experience, it was fun, and big crowds. But like you don't really find that. Like I just don't think people like little kids that listen to that are Justin Bieber fans go to like discover new music. You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
but I think there are levels of tours like that for certain people that like would have connected more. and I think there are fans of, I think now the fandoms are getting a little bit more interested in that. Like if like the younger fans of a band like the 1975 or like Taylor Swift or whatever, I just think at that moment, Bieber was just it was during the Purpose tour, like that Sorry was the biggest
Yeah.
song in the world, that whole thing. It was just like all they were just there with blood on their lips for Justin Bieber. It was like crazy.
Oh my
Um,
God.
but it was quite an experience. Like we'd have kids showing up outside the hotel room just because they knew we were there because we posted a photo, and even though they thought we were like, they just like we've never felt that kind of way before. It was like we're this like DJ duo from New York City opening for the biggest pop star in the world, playing like dance records and like doing synth solos and shit, and like it's just like it
That's
was such a
incredible.
weird fit. But yeah, and I would never trade it. I mean, it was like I got to see every part of Europe and shit, and it was cool. Um,
Right.
but I really don't think we walked away with that many fans. We got a lot of followers. There's difference between fans and followers, but we got a lot of like
There's a big
social
difference,
media
right?
followers. Yeah, and then
I
I
mean,
think
I think
slowly
that's an
they're just
interesting
dripping away as time goes on. They're
what the
unfollowing slowly. All the Bieber kids that followed
yes.
us.
That's happened to me with Blink 182. I opened for them for three
Oh,
and
I
a half
forgot you
months.
did that.
Yeah,
Holy
and it was the
shit!
same thing where everybody's, they think you're best friends with like every person in the band, and they're like just waiting for the band. You know what I mean? So they're kind of like
Right,
enduring you. You know what I mean? Maybe there'll be some people that like
exactly.
you, and then they follow
And
you
our
to
set
see
was
what's
like
going
20
on with the.
minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
and you're just like, I'm trying to get you going. This is so tough. And I was like the
right.
first opener. It was like I would open, and then there was like two other bands, and then them. So it was like there
Oh
was a
shit.
lot going on. But
Yeah,
yeah, same kind of thing. And I would be like, oh, I got so many followers. But then you'd notice, yeah, they're slowly dropping off, or they don't care unless
yeah,
you're posting something with
yeah.
like Mark Hoppus or Travis Barker. They're like,
Right.
screw you. So.
Did you enjoy the experience overall though? Like you happy you did it?
Yes, I enjoyed it. Happy I did it. Also, 100% like you were saying, learning experience.
Right.
It was like so many things happened. It was so much fun. It was once in a lifetime. It was incredible. But yeah, if I were to go back, I would sort of rethink the way I approached it a little bit. Maybe focus on
Totally.
my merch a little bit more. Like I didn't realize you make
Yeah.
that much money off merch. Like they would
Oh
go
yeah.
and like do the show, and yeah, you think, okay, they're selling out a show of 30,000 people. They're probably making like $1 million. But it was the merch table that was making the $1 million. It was like that
Yeah.
was everything else. They had to pay for the pyro and the big sign and the people to set up the
That's what
thing and
people
the
don't
8 tour
realize. That's
buses
what,
and
yeah.
it was crazy.
People don't know
So
that shit. And it's like, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
tough also with like DJs and dance music right now because it feels like it's this like crazy pissing contest of who can have the most like Cirque du Soleil ass show now. It's like I don't know. I remember going to electronic shows in New York early days and seeing like Simian Mobile Disco or like Too Many
yeah,
DJs, LCD and shit. And like it was just them up there with like the cans that were built into the venue and maybe they had like some strobes. And
yeah,
that was it. Like no one was doing that. I mean, and like I'm not knocking people who do the big production. I'm sure if we could do it, we'd do it. But like now you have bands like Odessa and like Cascade and these huge live electronic acts with these shows that are just like it's like a fucking avatar going on behind them. And it's like how do you compete with that? And like you're trying to like and it's
yeah,
become the norm. So when people go to a dance show or electronic music, especially, they're expecting to have some stimulation visually or something.
yeah,
But they don't understand how much money that fucking costs to do that stuff.
exactly.
And it's like, and it's tough, but you have to do something or else you kind of like feel like you're washed or like you can't keep up. So it's like, it's tough. And I can't imagine, like, I am so grateful that we started when we did and have been around this long because, being a new artist is in 2023, I think is harder than it's ever been. Um,
Yeah,
or musician or I mean DJ, anything. There's just so many of everyone doing everything that like getting your foot in
right,
any kind of door right now seems so tough. Even though there's like, yeah, everyone's like, oh, but now you can go on TikTok and go viral and blow up. It's like, but even that's not working anymore for people, and like that's getting oversaturated. It's just
right.
tough, and it's like, and especially trying to make, let alone like one thing to build a following, but let it to make money as a musician, it's just like it's tough. I'm producing this new artist named Juliana Madrid, who's this incredible singer songwriter, and
Yeah,
and she's so fucking good, and the songs are great, and I think if it had been 10 years ago, she'd be so massive by now. But like we are fighting through these waves of like just trying to make noise with everything going on. It's just hard, let alone like have her make some money. That's like, forget about it. It's like, I'm always like, I hope you do in the next 5 years. Like, good luck. It's tough, you know, it's just, it's
Yeah, it's like
crazy
you
out
have to
there.
have this like I don't know, nest egg ready to go if you want to become a musician
Literally.
nowadays, like to do it.
It's
Because
so
even
hard.
if you
Yeah.
become famous, you're not rich. And the other weird thing is
That's the
that
thing.
you see all these people that are famous and you don't know who the hell they are and they seem rich too. And you're like, wait, and they do music and you're like, how is this working? And they're like, I
Yeah.
got 40 Bentleys and houses. And you're like, but I just heard of you. Like none of this makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, other
No.
artists that have won Grammys and produced some of the biggest albums. And they're like, yeah, I've got a Toyota Corolla and I'm paying off my, like a studio apartment. It's
Student
such a
loans
weird
still.
thing.
Yeah.
I still don't understand a lot of it. Like a lot of it's
No,
smoke
it's
and
so
mirrors.
tough.
Yeah.
It's so much smoke and mirrors, and that's that thing. It's like people who don't know, like, see you play a big show, and they're like, "Oh, they're rich. They made it," or like you have so
Yeah.
many Instagram followers, and they're rich. It was definitely a waking up point for me when I went to LA after the whole like Instagram phase, and I hung out with some people that are like influencers or people with like 500,000 Instagram followers, and found out that they were broke as shit. It's like, oh, so you're not
Yeah.
rich off that? Like, it's like I
No.
don't know. It's just it's hard to squeeze money out of anything right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just, we're grateful that we can like make a living off what we do. And like my advice to anyone out there now is just to put shit out. If you're making music, it's like we do pretty well because we've been putting out music for so long. So like our royalties and our collective streaming has just built up so much over the years that now it's like at a point where it's like substantial income. It's like it's just I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like it's tough because I say that, but I also hate that everyone's just putting everything out all the time, and it's like there's too much stuff coming out. So it's like a double-edged sword. But like I get it because you kind of have to right now.
Right.
To make any kind of money, you can't like be precious. Like these bands that are going like there's a lot of these like big indie rock bands or indie whatever bands that I mean maybe rappers too. I think rappers are really good at putting stuff out more consistently, but bands will like even like Phoenix or something, they'll go away for like 6 years to work on their new record and then be like, here we are
Yeah.
again. And you forget how much people forget about you over 5 years now. It's like if you're gone that long, forget about it. You almost have to like start over again. It's like
Right.
and then you spend all this time on a record for 4 years. It's like it makes you feel like you can't be precious about things anymore, but you still I don't know. It's like that's like my biggest
Right.
like
Like you want to care
internal
about it
fight.
and give it the respect and the time it deserves and put in
Exactly.
all the quality work that you would normally put in, but you also want to get it out and just keep moving and keep pushing because everything
Exactly.
moves such a fast pace and everybody's being bombarded with everything constantly from a TV show and a movie and a song and it's just like endless
Yeah.
shit and old songs like a Fleetwood Mac song will blow up bigger than any
Yeah.
new song and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, well I do like that song, but that's also 47 years old, but that's cool. Like it's nothing
Stuff like
makes
that
sense.
gives
You're
me
like
hope.
ABBA,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, stuff like that gives me hope at least in like great songs. Like a great song is forever. Like when you see
Yes.
that happen, like I'm in the back of my head, I'm like, man, maybe in like 10 years classic will like hit the
Well,
radio
that was what I
chart
was
somehow.
just gonna say. Was that classic's gonna end up blowing up like in 5, 10 more years, and on
Yeah.
TikTok or whatever the new TikTok is, and you're like, boom, there we
Right.
go, baby. Like
Yeah.
that's
So
the
it's
good
like
thing about
it's
making the classic music. You know what I mean? And I think
right.
that's a good thing about trusting your gut, putting your true heart and soul into the music, whether it feels pointless at
Totally.
the time or not. Down the
Yeah.
line, it's
And
gonna pay off.
yeah.
You know.
You got to just stick, and that's my main thing. It's like, I mean, we've had such a slow climb, It's like we've been doing this
Yeah,
shit for so long. We just got a Grammy nomination. We just had probably our biggest year of releases in the past 2 years after 10 years of doing this. And
that's crazy.
so many people just like kind of give up too soon, I think, or there's, especially nowadays, it's like, oh,
Right.
I didn't go viral on my third song. I'm gonna do I'm a fashion designer now. I'm not a musician anymore. Like switch it
Right.
up.
Right.
Or like I'm gonna completely change my sound or whatever. It's like, nah, if you like you gotta stick to your shit. And like it's that whole if you build it, they will come thing. And I truly believe in that. And that's like obviously you
Yeah.
gotta make money. So like I just read that Rick Rubin book and the thing he said, he's like, make some of that stuff is a little too floofy for me, but when he was like, make stuff that you like that you love. Don't make it for someone else. And if you need to get a job in the meantime, get a fucking job.
Yeah.
Because like it's gonna be better in the long run to make stuff that you love that you think is good than trying to make someone else because you're just gonna be running in circles
Right.
doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
it's so
like,
true. Yeah, it's like
and
people
it
just
took me a
want the
while.
validation now. Like they want the fast
Right.
validation. Like, well, people don't like it. I don't know what to do. And at the end of the day, I mean, you should be like how you made your solo project and you were happy with it and you put it out and you made it for yourself in a way. And
Yeah.
like that should be the end thought
And
process,
I
I
expected
think. But
nothing from it. And then I put out another
right.
holiday single, and that one has like 6 million plays now. And like one of those songs off that album that came out 3 years ago now is like starting to stream more. And like it's a slow thing, and people are discovering it. And it's like that's all I could ask for. And it's like I
Right.
made the best thing I could, and you know I'm lucky to be in a place where I can afford to do that. But I don't know.
Right.
I just think if you're trying to get into music, if you're trying to get into music to make money right now, you're in the wrong line of work. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're gonna have to do something else also if you're just starting.
Yeah.
It's just like yeah, it's tough.
I mean, I think, you yourself and the Knox is a good example of, doing what you think is right, building the dedicated fan base and, gaining the success by having the true fans and not just the followers and not just
Right.
depending on a TikTok thing or, whatever it is. And you guys have been through so many evolutions or iterations of internet things that people go viral from, whether it was
We were doing
Facebook,
MySpace.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
MySpace. That's the thing. I remember posting things on MySpace. So it's always going to change. It's just a matter of, I guess, yeah, keeping your integrity, but also trying to do business. It's like that weird seesaw.
Yeah. And like just getting better. That's what I've
Yeah.
recently kind of gotten back into the hobby side of making music. Like when I say that, I mean like I'm getting back into like kind of like I'm buying more vintage gear and like getting into like
Yeah.
weird doing like cassette tape loops and stuff that I might not even use on records, but like my brain is growing and it's like, oh, this is like I go into my basement and just like will make sound for a couple hours
Right.
and then maybe not even record it, just like have fun doing it. Because for a while you get a little lost in it when you're like, oh, is this gonna go viral or is this like big enough? Is this like is the label
Right.
gonna like this? And you forget why you got into this, which was like me in my basement in New Hampshire just geeking off of loving making weird shit to play for my friends and at the end of the day like you start to lose sight of that. I think if especially when you start getting into going on tour with fucking Justin Bieber and this shit and like and
Right.
your head starts getting thrown all over the place of like what's big enough, is it big enough, is it like whatever, and it's like man just like just have fun too sometimes, like don't
Yeah.
forget to do
Yeah.
that.
That's how you ended up where you are. And I think that's the
Right.
most important thing is to like remember your why. Like when you feel lost or you feel like down, it's like if you just go back to the initial reason why you started doing this or just scratch on your turntables or
Right,
do some
exactly, I'll
old
go
school
down there
thing
and just do that. Yeah.
used to do when you were like 20 years old just for fun. Like that's, you have to go back and remember that. Like we didn't just do things because of this, we wanted it to be viral.
Right.
Like we just did it for fun and then cool shit came
Right.
out of it. And that's why you were saying like that album you did in the house, you would just be doing shit for fun, people coming over and,
Right.
those songs came out of it. And so what about like I know you guys are supposed to go play this weekend, right? In Aspen or something.
Oh yeah,
Did I see that?
we're in Aspen this weekend. Yeah.
And so what's that?
Right.
Is that just like a DJ set or?
Yeah, we do like a DJ set. It's mainly all knock songs, but then the songs that J Pat like has vocals on, he'll go out and do them. I guess you call it
Nice.
like the hybrid set or whatever. I don't know. They all
Yeah.
these different terms. Um, but
Right.
yeah, it's
But I
just
mean,
like
that's
party, it's like
like
party
I
rocking.
saw
Yeah.
Anderson Paak this weekend. I did a gig and he was doing it too, and he does vinyl, but he'll kind of do like mashups of his own songs, like
Oh,
put
that's
on the
cool.
beat for like Busta Rhymes, and then he'll do the like come down verse over it while like
Oh, that's
pulling the in
fire.
and out. And it's kind of like what you're
Yeah.
saying, this hybrid new thing where artists that are also on the mic and DJing can also bring that to the show or something.
Right. And I like that because it comes back to hip hop. It's like me and J Pat both
Yeah.
grew up listening to hip hop, and like the MC and the DJ was like the thing where there's like even like, like dance hall shit with like the guy just hosting. It's like, and that's why I just love our DJ sets are fun because like it's not like a lot of these more electronic acts that were producers turned DJs. We were kind of the other way around. I mean, we were always producers, but like we were very much club DJs. Like not everyone, especially electronic acts now have that
Yeah.
back history of like rocking clubs for so like a day job. You know, I was doing that shit for years. So like the whole open format thing, it's fun. Our DJ sets will be so fun because we playing our own shit, then we'll just like flip into like a Whitney Houston song or some rap song and then go full open format and then go back. You know what I mean? It's like, and we
Yeah.
can totally wing it. And it's not like we're up there being like, this is our set and it's all like synced up and it's like drum in, drum out, like the real like EDM guy thing. It's like, it's way more of like party rocking. And I think that's
Yeah.
why people like our DJ sets so much. It's like, it still is very obviously very much electronic leaning and stuff, but it has this energy, that kind of New York open format energy to it for sure.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the advantage that you guys bring to the
I think
table.
open format DJs are still the most skilled DJs in the world. It's like you can't beat that shit. You could be the best house, you could be Felix the house guy, whatever. All these house DJs, they're great, but like go, I
Right.
dare one of those guys to go like rock a room at fucking Marquee or one of those places on a hip hop night. It's like good luck, brother. That shit is
Right.
hard.
Yeah.
That takes
and
a whole
like
nother,
you said,
yeah.
like it takes a long time. Like I've been doing this forever, and there's times where it's like, am I done? And then, like you said, over the past 2 months alone, I've had some of the craziest first time experiences and DJ'd for people I've never played for, and all of my knowledge and experience is like helping me, you know, like within these situations when
isn't that the best feeling?
Yeah, it's crazy, and you wouldn't think
when you get to tap into that old stuff. Yeah, it's the
right,
best.
exactly. Yeah, and I'm playing. It's all the knowledge and all the experience over all the time. You know, is like coming out to help within all these things, and it just feels like okay, we're still growing as DJs. I'm still learning. I'm still being thrown into crazy situations where I need to, under pressure, figure out what to do. And yeah, I think that it's probably why your guys' show is so much fun and stuff like that.
That was my only exposure to DJing, was seeing like I never went out to clubs in other cities. When I moved to New York, I was just in New York, so I go to clubs and everyone would be playing like fucking Depeche Mode into Jay-Z, into some oldies song, into whatever. Then I was like, oh, not all clubs do this? It's like, no, a lot of other places were like, there's a hip hop club and there's a techno club and there's this. New York really, like, especially the cool bars in New York, that was like such a thing. Like you go to like the Box or like these like more exclusive cool kid places and they'd be playing like the Strokes, but then they'd mix it into like some full trap record and be like, man, this is so cool.
Right.
And I feel like that influenced our music a lot, because it's like we're just genre mashers, because it's just always been like we just like it all. Like I'll go listen to a Strokes song and then listen to fucking like Beanie Siegel. You know what I mean? It's like I'm like everything.
Does that kind of like flow into your production stuff, like being a DJ, being an open format DJ, like when you're making songs? I know you guys make a lot of like VIP edits too that seem like they're more for the DJs.
Yeah, I always try to think of the DJs. It's funny because like our music is so not usually that DJ lean, but we'll make a couple records here and there. But I'm always like, it's almost more like my knowledge of, I use the knowledge of like knowing how songs react from being in the club so much or playing in the club. Like, you know, like I'll always be like, oh, this is kind of like Just Can't Get Enough by Depeche Mode, like that way that hits, or like all this stuff. But I would only know all those records from DJing, you know, like the main hits in like every genre basically, you know. You just like your crate knowledge gets so deep, and like, but you also just like, I mean, you're a DJ. All you do is play songs and watch people react. Like no one's a better judge of how music reacts than a club DJ. I always send every time I finish a new single that I think is like big, I send it to DJ Equal. I'm like, what do you think? And if he says it's a hit, it's usually a hit. He like, you know, like all my best friends that are DJs are my best. I'd ask them before anyone else, either them or like one of my friends that doesn't even like music that much, who's not like a music person. Those are my two favorite people to ask, like a club DJ and them. I never want to ask another musician because they're always going to have something to fucking say. And I never want to ask like your best friend or your girlfriend or your parents, because they're always like, it's great, sweetie. You know, you need like Elliot, like a DJ like that, or like someone who just like works in fucking tech and just like listens to the most basic Spotify playlists. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those are my two favorite people to send music to.
And because like we can drop it, like Elliot, or can just drop it in the club, and then we could see some sort of reaction, you know, like of what's.
And that's all you
happen.
do. What else do you do when you're DJing? You're watching people. You're literally, it's like a science experiment. You're watching these people react to sound, you know?
Right. 100%.
And you start to learn so much. You start to know, like, you know, you can tell if someone's really into it or if they're not. You can tell. It's such a funny thing.
And you can tell if just a part of it works. Like there's so many songs I play now where it's like how quickly it takes for them to pull their phone back out. Like that's what it is.
Right.
So like the people either they want to film the one part singing it, or like they'll be like into it, and then like you see them start to fade out, and then they go, "What am I doing right now? I need my phone to like feel normal." Okay, I'm looking at my phone. Okay, you know, and then you're like change the song because they're like done yelling like 21. Can you do something for me? You know, and then it's like the part of the song they don't know, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna go on Instagram.
Yeah,
until he switches
that's the danger of fucking TikTok, is everyone only knows 30 seconds of each song now.
I know.
It's like
ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Well, shit, I know you got to get out of here soon.
Oh yeah, sure.
What? Don't want to hold you up. I know. I feel like I didn't think we'd go this long, and I also feel like we could talk for way longer.
We could talk forever. I know. We could get into it.
Someone when I asked for questions on the internet, someone asked, what was your first concert? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was The Roots.
Yes, that's amazing.
Actually. Yeah, they played at the college, in the college town near me, and I saw them, and it was amazing. It was like, yeah, it was really cool.
Oh, that's so dope.
Yeah,
I got to go to their the Grammy Jam that they do during the Grammys.
Oh yeah,
every
how
year.
sick was that?
It was pretty dope. I went Saturday.
I didn't realize Questlove put that whole thing together, the hip hop thing, the tribute. Yeah.
And they kind of practiced it the night before. So I went to the El Rey Theater, and they had like all the same Scarface. Everybody came out and did it, except the Roots just jammed and did all their own songs. And they do like 15-minute version of like what's the name of it? Like the one with Erykah Badu. You Don't Know Me.
Yeah.
Where it turns into the jungle drum and bass kind of beat at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I heard
so
Quest said he's going to do a full like hour-long version of that hip-hop tribute, like actually go through every era.
Oh my God. He needs
and,
to.
Like,
well, that's the thing. It definitely, he did the best job ever, and there's nothing else he could have done, but it definitely skipped through some eras.
Apparently he had some cancellations last minute. I was sad there was no Dipset. Right. If Dipset had come out, I would have just flipped my coffee table over.
I think there were some cancellations at the Jam too, because I saw the set list. Someone showed it to me, and not all of the stuff happened. So
yeah.
Who knows? I mean, he probably
rappers are tough, man. Rappers will just be like, "Nah, I'm not gonna make it."
It seemed like that's what Scarface was doing live at the show, not in the Grammys, but at the practice one, because they like had him come out, and then he like rapped part of his verse and just was like, "I'm out, peace. Like I gotta go to sleep." That's the other thing, is like we're all old now. Like they didn't even go on till almost midnight. Everybody was so tired. We all got there at 8 o'clock, and I'm like, "Yo, everybody's in their 40s and 50s, and like we're trying to go home now, dude."
It's not like the old hip hop shows where you're waiting all around all day.
Yeah, like they're from the East Coast too, and they played till like 3 a.m. I'm like, you guys really want to be up till 6 a.m. like on the day of the Grammys? But that's dope though. So the Roots. All right, well, so you got to. Seems like the time is up here. You got to go. But any last minute words for the DJs out there? Anybody trying to get into what you're doing, or just anything you want to say to the people?
No, my old advice is the same one, which is just stick to it and do it, man. Yeah. Just keep doing it. Don't. And it's like seems so cliche, and I feel like when I was younger and someone told me that, I'd be like, oh my God, yeah, you and everyone else. But then like coming from someone who's now 10, 15 years in, more than that, even though I hate counting the years, it makes me sad. But
I know
it's just like you gotta stick to it, and it's like if you gotta fucking love it. Obviously, don't do it for any other reasons besides loving it, because I still get joy out of these little moments. I go down there and scratch my old Bionic Booger Breaks record, and I fucking love it.
Yes.
And it's like if you have anything you love like that, whether it's DJing, producing, rapping, any of that shit, just do it, because we're lucky to have that at all. Because I'm sure some people that don't get a little lost and they don't have the thing that they love, and you just start to realize how lucky you are to have something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Stay in the present and realize what you have in front of you without trying to feel like every other shiny thing around you is like better, or I need to do this, or I have to be like someone else.
And don't compare yourself to other people. That's the most poison.
Yeah. Yeah, that like you are totally unique. In the same way, like we're comparing your music to other people, but it's still one of a kind and totally different. Everything you made and brought to the table.
Well, thank you.
And then everything you and J Pat make together is so unique and amazing, So
thank you, man.
Yeah. I agree. Yo, so good having you on the show. And
thanks, Spider.
Yes, everyone go check out Holiday 87, DJ B-Roc, The Knocks, all that stuff. Snoop, tell them what up.
Black Owl.
Black Owl. We're doing it. All right.
Thanks.
Hopefully, I see you in person. I'm playing this party this weekend. I don't know if you've heard of it, called Electric Feels.
Yeah, Elliot. I was gonna
did
go
it.
with Elliot once. Yeah, it looked amazing. It's all like blog house stuff, like all that era, right?
Yo, I'm gonna play your guys' music. I will be at House of Blues, San Diego. I think it's like sold out.
Oh, yeah, send me a video. Elliot, he played one when he did it, and it looked like they go off. They look crazy.
Yo, your songs with like Foster the People, it's like everybody's singing every word, going nuts. Like I couldn't believe I did it once, and then they hit me like, oh, who can do it? And I'm like, DJ Equal for sure. And you were in town too, so
I know
I told him,
I'm
like,
I was gonna go.
I figured you would like just seeing it, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's pretty dope. So I'm gonna do that Saturday. So
send me some videos.
I will. Maybe give me a Knocks drop. Be like, yo, crowd.
Yeah, what up?
I don't know if they know your
Coming
voice.
Coming in from the woods. Yeah, I don't think they'll recognize me for sure.
Just re-sing classic.
Yeah, there we go.
Yo, Powers, we need you over here. But yeah, so I'll send you some video from that. And thanks for everything you've done for the culture, from DJing to the music, and giving us this incredible music to play as DJs. Like, it's a gift,
Thank you.
I love it. Yeah. So thank you, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Later. All right, what a fun episode. Thank you so much to Ben, aka DJ B-Roc of The Knocks, and his own solo project Holiday 87 for coming on the show. We learned so much about his own personal life, about just the places that music can take you. It was so interesting, and he's such a cool dude. So shout to him for coming on. Go check out all his stuff. All the links are in the episode. And thank you guys, the Beatsourcers, for listening. The 20 Podcast is produced by Beatsource. Join us next week for more interviews as we discuss music that matters to DJs. I'm DJ Spider signing off. Peace.